Hi there, Warriors. Welcome back to the channel. Uruguay are out of the World Cup. It's been a few days already. And I'm here with Daniel. We're going to talk about what happened, what has happened afterwards, the Bielsa comments, the reaction in the media, the way the fans have reacted, the way former players have reacted. A lot to talk about. Daniel, thanks, man, for being here. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. We're just about what 4 or 5 days away from Uruguay being eliminated, and still dealing with it. Still dealing with it, but I mean, overall, it's been a fantastic World Cup. We've seen a lot of great games, a lot of surprise teams, and yeah, man. Let's start breaking it down because it hasn't been a let's say it hasn't been a great last 4 days, but we have gotten a lot of news, especially from the Bielsa press conference yesterday, and well, we're gonna get into talk about some of that stuff.
Yeah, no. So we're obviously going to talk about it. And please, for the people joining, let us know your thoughts about Uruguay in the World Cup. I mean, I think we can all kind of have some thoughts about that, but also about the comments of Bielsa and the reaction in the media, reaction in Uruguay, maybe also outside of Uruguay. Would be interesting to read your comments. But yeah, maybe start with the game first against Spain, because obviously we had the game against Saudi and Cape Verde. We all know what went wrong in those games, different things, but obviously the goalkeeper not performing, Uruguay sometimes losing kind of their way, and then having good moments and then not having the quality in the attacking third to finish it. Many things going wrong there. But then we go into the final game. Uruguay have the game against Spain, a huge game, two world champions coming up against each other. And Uruguay actually, the first half, play just if you take into account that the European champion, probably play their best half of football at this World Cup in that game against Spain. When you were watching that game, and then the mistake happens with Muslera, he lets that ball in, which I think was one of the worst blunders I've seen him make, and we have seen a few, right? What's going through your mind at that moment in time? Because you were at the game, or no, sorry, not at this game, right? No, not at this
I
game.
didn't
No.
get to go to this game. I was in New
Yeah.
York over the weekend, and but we all got together with my family. We were in New York for my niece's birthday, and we all got together to watch the game. You know, we made a family dinner. We sat down to watch the game as soon as the lineup came out, like 45 minutes before the game, and I read Muslera on on the tweet of him starting. I already had a bad feeling in my stomach. And then when the game started, I thought Uruguay was playing great in the first half, a lot more active than what we've seen them in the prior two first halves. Not really being reactive like they were the first couple of games, waiting for the other team to score before they reacted. They were actually being the protagonist in the game, getting to the goal. Unfortunately, every time we got into their area, we didn't shoot the ball, and that was one of the biggest things. I remember probably the closest play we had was a center to Darwin Nunez, and Darwin, instead of shooting the ball, he's right in front of the goal. He backheels it, trying to look for somebody coming in from behind. But I was losing my mind. And then when Muslera lets that goal in, I'm surprised that the neighbors didn't call the cops because I must have said so many bad words in Spanish
Yeah.
that it was just not fun. It just wasn't fun at that point.
No, no, it wasn't. And you're right. I mean, Uruguay were able to hit Spain in transition. And this is what we were talking about, right? Because some we were talking about obviously the changes need to be made, like Muslera and even Ugarte. And I actually think Ugarte didn't play a bad half of football until he got injured. It was probably his best half of football in this World Cup. But Uruguay had these moments in transition. And we could talk about a lot of things with regards to Bielsa, Valverde, and whatever. But the problem for this team right now, and it has been, I guess, for the last 18 months, is besides Maxi Araujo, there's very little quality in that attack at the moment that can really deliver that moment, be composed, be calm in front of the goal. Canobbio's had a decent World Cup, but he's obviously not that kind of player that can deliver that. And Darwin, he has been able to do it. But at this World Cup, and I don't think he's been our biggest problem in this World Cup, but he sure as hell hasn't been able to deliver a moment. Because you're talking about the chance he had. It's not the moment to be clever and to kind of find it someone at the back post. It's probably a moment to show that you're Uruguay's number nine and that you're gonna lead this team to the knockout stages. And he, like many others, has not been able to do that. And what makes this even more, I think, sour or bittersweet, whatever you want to call it, I don't know what to call it, is that you could have even drawn that game, and then now we're playing Argentina tomorrow, right? That's the way it is, and we didn't. And in that second half, I guess after the goal went in, after Muslera let it in, Uruguay kind of didn't or weren't able to show the same type of performance. Valverde went out. I think it was I understood
It's
the
60-50.
substitution,
Yeah,
right?
it's 60-50.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, no, please go ahead. Yeah.
Oh no, I was gonna say. I mean, I know that there's a lot of folks that are upset with that substitution, but I thought that substitution was fine. I didn't think Valverde had a good tournament for Uruguay at that point. What you needed was some more creativity. Now, unfortunately, on the bench, Uruguay doesn't have a lot of creativity. That's one of the things that this team lacks, and you mentioned it. Obviously, in the front line, you had Araujo, Darwin, and Canovio. Of those three, there's only one, which is Maxi Araujo, who can actually take somebody on one-on-one. Canovio is not that type of player. He's more of a player with garra. You saw that. He's not going to be fancy, take somebody on one-on-one and be able to beat them. He's going to beat them with brute strength. And so that's one of the biggest differences that I've seen from Uruguay in this World Cup and all the other teams who continue to play well is they have these guys on the wings who can create these one-on-one mismatches with defenders and get by them. You have a Lamine Yamal, you have a Olise, you have a Dembele. I mean, I can continue to keep going, but yeah, I was okay with Valverde coming off in the game. At that point, I don't think he was gonna give you much. But I mean, it was just a really sad game, especially in the second half, because you could kind of notice that there was a handful of players who really wanted to do something, at least tie the game, win the game. But the rest of the team was just kind of nonchalant about it. It's almost like if they didn't care, it was okay that they were getting eliminated in the World Cup.
Yeah, because that's the way. Because I read Poyet's comments, and Gus Poyet is obviously, I mean, big player in the past, and also a big character, a big personality in Uruguayan football, obviously. But sometimes he says things, and I'm thinking, I'm not sure about that. And now he came out, obviously, and he said that the players really gave it them all. He didn't question that and stuff like this. But he also commented on the Bielsa comments, talking about the team talks, which is a big topic in recent, I think, recent 24 hours, 48 hours, whenever he came out with it. That he had to cut them from 20 to 10 or whatever. 10 minutes is basically what he had to cut it down to, because otherwise the players didn't respond to it well. They didn't like it. Well, how does that reflect on that group of players? If obviously that's true, because I tend to believe Bielsa in this case, but we obviously never know. Because that's why I also hope that the Valverde or the Darwin or whoever comes out and actually tells their story if it's not true. Because now it's kind of, you don't hear the players, you only hear the manager, and he's also obviously kind of saving his own face in a sense. Although I do believe he comes from a place of telling the truth. But how did you see these comments, and how does it reflect on the group of players?
Well, it reflects extremely negative, right? I mean, if you're a 20 something or 30 something year old man and you can't sit down in a room for 30 or 35 or 40 minutes to listen to your coach who knows more about the game or has studied the opponent relentlessly, and he's trying to give you information on the opponent or information on what to do, and you can't sit there and take that, then I think that's just very irresponsible, and it's just a lack of respect for the coach, a lack of respect for the country, and a lack of respect for yourself. Because Marcelo Bielsa, and again, we can talk about how great the start of his tenure was, how terrible the end of his tenure was, and we can agree maybe he was not the right coach for Uruguay. But one thing you cannot argue is the man Marcelo Bielsa is a very prepared coach. He likes to be extremely over prepared, and he's very meticulous when he looks at his preparation. I was at the game when USA beat Uruguay. I was at the hotel the night before when the players arrived from the game against Mexico, and he brought them into the hotel. They went to have dinner, and then they went to a meeting. And it was a 45-minute meeting. Now, mind you, at 11 o'clock at night, I understand you don't want to be sitting in a meeting after you just got off of a 3-hour flight from Mexico and you sat down for dinner. I can understand those things. But at the end of the day, if those are the things that is going to make you better, why wouldn't you want to listen? Why wouldn't you want to sit there and learn from this gentleman who is trying to teach you something Again, I think that looks very poorly upon the players. And it makes me wonder what is it that they do in Europe? Do they complain to their coaches over there as well? Because I haven't heard any of these guys go out and complain about any of their coaches in Europe. So could this just be like a Uruguay thing?
No, yeah, no, that's true. Now, that's why also I want to hear from them, obviously, about this subject, among others. Because then another thing Poyet said, which I obviously totally agree with, and I think you will as well, is that I mean, when you're at the World Cup, there's a lot of time when you're doing nothing. So I mean, if that's your problem, not being able to listen for more than 10 minutes to your coach or manager, and perhaps Bielsa, and he said it himself, doesn't captivate the players in a way that, for example, an Ancelotti can or another manager can. That's obviously something that can be true. But if you have a campaign like Uruguay just had, in which some players just didn't turn up, I don't really fault some many of their effort. I don't really fault it because I think many of them actually wanted to give it their all, and some of them didn't perform. I mean, that's maybe a quality issue or maybe just not being in the right state of mind. But regardless of that, is that it kind of reflects better on you if this is coming out after you've just had that campaign. You know, you just had Uruguay knocked out of the World Cup, having only 2 points, and that comes out, and then people are starting adding things together, and that's now why a lot of players have turned on a lot of fans have turned on the players rather than the coach, the manager Bielsa, and I think both obviously have a lot of blame in this catastrophe. And I don't think we can obviously talk about Bielsa things he did wrong probably, but the players, I mean, if you look at a squad of players, how do we go? I mean, how do we go into next year, the next tournament? What's kind of, besides the manager issue, do you see issues in this squad that needs to be addressed regardless of who's going to be the manager?
100%. I mean, there's a ton of issues on this squad. Obviously, you don't have a goalie, right? You have in goal, you have Muslera, who he's probably not going to play for Uruguay anymore. You have Rochette, who is a player who hasn't played a lot over the last 6 to 12 months with his team in Brazil, and you don't really know what's going to happen with Rochette going forward. Is he going to be somebody who's going to be part of the squad? You have Mele, but other than that, I can't think of any other players that passed through the Bielsa era who could just step in and be the starting goalkeeper for Uruguay. You had Christopher Fiarmarin. I don't think he could be the one.
Franco
So
Israel, but he obviously hasn't really. There was a moment where it seemed like he was going to be the successor to Muslera, but he obviously hasn't done it. He's not been able to develop, not been able to get playing minutes at Torino as well in the last few months. So that's, I mean, again, I think we are all on the same page when it comes to the goalkeeper issue. It's a difficult one, but maybe zooming in on this, just to kind of guess where I think Bielsa did get it completely wrong, is the Rochette thing. I mean, obviously he hasn't played a lot last season, a lot of injuries, even leading up to the World Cup. But from what I've heard from Bielsa himself, he was available for these World Cup games. He was. So it was a technical decision by Bielsa to go with Muslera, who had a good season for Estudiantes. We have to say that, of course. But obviously, Muslera is someone who's made mistake after mistake, which eventually led to him being, well, displaced as Uruguay's number one. He went to the 2022 World Cup, but after that, he didn't play or wasn't part of the squad anymore under Bielsa. So he made this decision. And then in March, he recalled him. And I was thinking first, well, if it's going to be a player in as part of the squad, as a veteran, as a reverente, maybe, to be an experienced player in the squad, I'm all for it. But if he's going to be our number one, I don't know about it. And I wasn't that strong in voicing my discontent or my disagreement with it at the start, because obviously you don't know what's going to happen. I can never expect or predict the way it went for Muslera this World Cup, but I never was fully into it, fully backing it, because Rochette has not done a lot wrong for us. There are some issues with him when it comes to playing when on the feet, right? Playing from the back, that stuff. But when it comes to shot stopping, when it comes to, for example, the penalty against Ghana, this kind of stuff, he has been a good goalkeeper for Uruguay. He was never going to be a top 3 or top 5 goalkeeper at this World Cup, but good enough for us to get through the group stages. Because if Rochette played for me against Saudi and Cape Verde, Uruguay get at least 4 points out of that game. And I think we can be pretty sure in saying that. Because I've never seen him make, or not, probably sometimes, but rarely see him make the mistakes that Muslera made for these two goals, especially against South or against Cape Verde, and then obviously the one against Spain. I mean, we all know. I mean, that's just it happens, but at that we didn't see it with Roget in his time at Uruguay so far. So I'm not gonna assume that this happened for him as well if he would have played. So that was the call that Bielsa got completely wrong, and that is down to him. That's his responsibility as the manager. He made the decision to play Muslera instead of Rochette, and it has cost Uruguay. Because even though maybe Uruguay were not going to be a serious contender in this World Cup, Uruguay still would have gone through if that decision would have been Rochette instead of Muslera. Uruguay would have been playing against Argentina, and that falls completely down to Bielsa, in my opinion. Right? I mean,
Absolutely. I mean, and it goes beyond that, Dave, because obviously, yes, he chooses the players who are going to start, right? And he chooses who's going to come in terms of substitutions. But I think it goes even a little bit further than that. It goes to the squad selection. You look at the squad selection, he only took three forwards, right? The three forwards, you had Rodrigo Aguirre, who plays regularly for his club in Mexico. You had Viñas, who also plays pretty regularly for his club. But then you have Darwin Nunez, who hadn't played in over 6 months for his club. You have a forward in Martin Satriano, who had been playing very well for his club in France, in Spain. France was last year in Spain, and he could have called him. You had a Santiago Mourinho who could have been on the squad instead of a Matias Viñas. You had a bunch of players who Uruguay has playing all over the world who are playing heavy minutes for their teams, and they were never called during the Marcelo Bielsa cycle. And so that's where I start to point fingers in terms of maybe he's not the right guy to coach because he's not a great squad maker. He might be a good coach. He might look at the analytics. He might look at the statistics and do great game planning. But at the end of the day, if you cannot pick the right squad, then they're not going to go anywhere. And I think you saw that. Obviously, he took two guys that were injured in the Arrascaeta and Ronald Araujo. Araujo being his second World Cup that he goes, still hasn't played a minute.
that's insane.
So he took a lot of these players that that you start to think. He didn't even take another right back. He only took one right back because he was thinking that Ronald Araujo and Federico Valverde were going to be the other two right backs. So he only took Guillermo Varela. And so you start to look at those decisions that he made, and you start to wonder, what is it that you were thinking, Bielsa? Because the squad that he put together, was it good enough to get past the first round? Absolutely. But was it good enough to go anywhere else in the World Cup? Probably not. And that's unfortunately the reality that a lot of us Uruguayans have to face is, yes, we were good enough to get out of the group. We didn't. But we weren't good enough to do much in this World Cup. And once you start to come to that realization, then the getting out in the group stage will start to make a little bit more sense.
No, I fully see what you're saying, and I absolutely agree because I think Uruguay, with the underlying problems there were with Uruguay not being able to create as much as we were. I mean, when you look at the first 60 qualifiers, yeah, there were some tough games in there, for example, against Colombia and Ecuador, but Uruguay really created chances very well, very high intensity, operated against a unit, and all these things, they kind of vanished. And sometimes they were completely gone, sometimes they returned a little bit. For example, against Colombia and Brazil, these two qualifiers, I think in end of 2024 or 2025. But in general, they weren't as they were in the first 12 months in Bielsa's tenure. So Uruguay actually being a serious contender, having a similar run to the one in 2018, was always going to be difficult. But yeah, not getting out of the group is obviously a disgrace, like Vincent says. I mean, we can get into some comments. Thanks, guys, for sending him in. Leo says there's a lot of internal problems with the coach and the players, but also a lot of external factors such as club form and continuation and injuries that all sort of compounded and got us eliminated. I think there's obviously a lot of truth to that, for sure. I mean, the Darwin thing, for example, because Bielsa's project has been a key factor of it has been a Darwin up front, being able to deliver the goals, being able to deliver the energy, the runs, the work rate, and especially these last three things, besides the goals, is also what I found in the Spain game a big problem with Darwin. Because this wasn't, yeah, he sometimes has his bursts of running and being energetic, but this continual making the diagonals, creating space for himself, but also for teammates, all this kind of stuff that really made him a a big asset to the Uruguay team, besides the goals, is not there anymore. And we talked about it in a previous stream about his fitness, all that kind of stuff. And obviously, I think that's also a problem for Darwin. And the Satriano one, and I think Alvaro Rodriguez is another great example. These two players, I think, if they were part of the squad and they were available for us, they would have probably been better options than Darwin and Federico Viñas. Because I think Viñas, although he showed things against Saudi, he still missed a lots of chances. He still made loads of chances in that game, and in the second game, he didn't really. I mean, it wasn't that threatening, and he didn't really get into positions like he did in the Saudi game. And Aguirre, I think he was there and he played some minutes. I think against Saudi, I'm pretty sure he came on for a few minutes, but it was basically a passenger in the squad. So it would have been great to have an Alvaro, especially for me, because he's a big man up front. Certainly with the crosses we put in the Saudi game, for example, it would have been a huge asset. But he's never been really part of what Bielsa tried to do. Not Satriano wasn't either, Arambari wasn't either, Torreira not, Santiago Moreno not. And these are key players that really would have been giving value to this squad. So that's a problem. The Muslera thing we talked about, the Ugarte thing. I think there should have been a stand-on or replacement for him, like a Torreira in the squad, to kind of solve the issues we had in the first two games. Because besides the defensive liability he's become, he's also someone, if you play against Saudi or play against Cape Verde, Torreira, with the way he plays football, with the way he can really, well, recycle and then also distribute possession, it makes life so much easier for Bentancur in that midfield, and also for Verde, obviously. Yeah, so,
Look,
please.
I'm gonna take it a little further in the forward talk because, and I'll probably get some heat from folks that are fans of the opposite team, but Maxi Gomez, who plays for Nacional, had a very good last 1.5 months leading up to the World Cup. He's a big forward. He plays, yes, in the Uruguayan League, which is not great, but even he would have made a bigger difference than Darwin Nunez, just because he's playing week in and week out. Darwin wasn't even touching a ball, only in practice, which is very different than the reps that you get during a game. So I think, again, Bielsa missed it heavily with his squad selection. I agree. Torreira could have been a player who's been playing regularly over in Turkey. He could have been somebody to come in. Even thinking of a player who at the beginning of Bielsa's cycle was one of the key players in Facundo Pelistri. He was, nowhere to be found over the last, 3 to 4 months before the World Cup. And he didn't even make an appearance at the World Cup. So you have to start wondering, yes, the players failed. Yes, Bielsa failed. Everybody failed. One thing that somebody said in the comments that I completely agree, and you have it up right now, the press. The press failed as well, because every single opportunity that they had to bring down Bielsa during his cycle, they took that opportunity and did it. They did it with the Suarez situation. They did it when the other players came out to talk, and now they did it again during the World Cup, putting out those reports that there was issues between the players and the coach, and they had that meeting. All that was unnecessary. So I agree. The press did a terrible job in managing this whole situation. And yes, they hold a portion of the responsibility as well. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry, my bad. So, and a lot of these stories are actually, as it turns out, are false, right? That's what we've learned now, especially when it comes to the intervention that kind of took place, reported by some, between the Spain or the Cape Verde and Spain game. And the thing is, you know what? I'm living in the Netherlands, right? So I watched the World Cup with Dutch commentary, and they referred actually to that story, which came from a part of the Uruguayan press, not mainstream, not widespread, not like everybody hit that is, but it was a story coming out of Uruguayan media. I'm not even sure. I think El Espectador, I think they put it out, and I'm not sure what the journalist was now, but it was copied over everywhere, and obviously it makes Uruguay look real bad. The players as well, the outside as well. Everything is just bad, and the press, they love the opportunity obviously to do it. And I'm sure. I mean, I agree with you. And this is why the press kind of. I'm not the Bielsa's biggest fan. That's I mean I think most people will know that by now. And that's not because I don't like him and what he can offer. Because when you were playing well, I praised him massively. And you were obviously from the early beginnings, you were really big on Bielsa. And I didn't really know. But then when Uruguay started to play well, when Uruguay became a serious team again, I loved it and I praised Bielsa big time. And I proved, or I said, yeah, I was wrong in my early doubts. But the reason why I don't like Bielsa in the last 18, 24 months is because Uruguay have deteriorated, regressed, and he's made decisions where I didn't agree with at all. But leaving it all aside, when Tabares was in charge, and when Tabares was making ridiculous decisions, game in, game out, was ignoring players that should have been in the national team for years already. The press were never like this when it comes to Tabares. And we all know why this obviously is the case, because Tabares is like a godlike figure in Uruguayan football in the last 20 years in terms of his influence. And
I don't know why. What
they,
did they ever do?
but they, but
One
they
for
obviously.
America?
No, I agree completely. No, we can have that discussion, but it's gonna take another hour. But we are on one page in that one. But he has so many. I think with Tabares as well, people were dependent on him, the way he gave access to the Complejo Celeste, to stories, all this stuff, interviews. But he also is someone, I guess he's Uruguayan, that helps as well. He also obviously did great stuff in his early period in charge. But the press, I mean, they were disgracefully conservative in the way they approached him and the critics on him. I mean, it took until Uruguay nearly didn't make it to the World Cup until people actually started to criticize him in a profound way. And then obviously he was dismissed. But the criticism for him throughout these years was so mild and was always talking about the fans that were ungrateful and Uruguay doing this and look at where we came from. Look at, we didn't make a World Cup and now we're here. Be grateful and all this stuff. But when it comes to Bielsa, they obviously were so quick to turn on him, to kind of undermine him. And we can talk about the Suarez comments in which he undermined the authority of Bielsa. But I believe, and I still believe this, Suarez is a legend of Uruguay. Suarez wanted to voice some concerns he had, and he is in his right to do that, whether we like it or not. But the problem is the way it was brought, the way it was made even bigger than I guess it already was, because there were some kind of comments that looked bad on Bielsa. But I fully agree with you on the press thing. And so, yeah, I mean, and that's obviously, it's the press, it's the players, it's Bielsa, it's the AOF. We can also talk about the AOF and their role in all of this. But maybe skipping a little bit ahead, talking about the IF, now they need to appoint a new manager. I mean, maybe we leave it to a little bit later and discuss a little bit more about the World Cup. But yeah, maybe you can jump in there.
Yeah, I mean, so the first thing that I want to mention about the AUF is they have elections next year. And we know that the World Cup qualifiers don't start until next September. If I was Lauf, and I understand why, right? I understand why, because you don't want to have Nacho Alonso appoint a coach and then a new president gets elected, 9 months from now, and then he doesn't want that coach and he brings in somebody else. I get it. But you're in a World Cup cycle, right, where you don't have to play any World Cup qualifiers. I would want to get the coach in as soon as possible so he can start taking a look at some of these players over the next 12 months, especially some of the young players. One of the things that, Bielsa gets criticized for, and I think it's rightfully so, is since he came into the picture, the younger divisions of the Uruguay national team haven't done very well, right? The U17, I think, failed to qualify for the World Cup. I believe the U20s as well. So we've had an issue with that since Bielsa came here. That was one of the things that Tabares was very good about. And we all know he was a great, director of national teams, Tabares. He was an okay coach, but that was the one thing that's been missing. And I think when they go out and get a new coach, or a new leader that we could put it, because the coach isn't just a coach of the national team; he's the coach or the leader of the entire Uruguayan Soccer Federation. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of names that have been kind of dropped: Forlan, Loco Abreu, Marcelo Broly, who we know coached the U20 team to that World Cup. And the name that I like the most of the ones that have filtered out is Marcelo Gallardo.
Okay.
I
Another Argentinian. Yeah.
and,
No,
and
I see what you're saying. I see where you're coming from, though. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, and I'll probably get heavily criticized for this, and I know, and I don't understand why, because and I get it from my friends too. I'm in a group chat with a bunch of Uruguayans, and they're like, "We need a Uruguayan coach. They're the only ones that understand the culture. They're the only ones." Dude, F me with the culture. F me with all this stuff. This is a coach. This is a team. This is a job. Your job is to come and represent your country and listen to the coach that is appointed. And if you don't want to do it, then don't be part of the team. So there's no coach right now, no Uruguayan coach, maybe just one, only one, Guillermo Almada, and we agree. He is the only coach right now that is Uruguayan that I think has the capacity to take over a project like this. Forlan was a fracaso at Peñarol. He did it also at Atenas de San Carlos. He was a disaster. Abreu, he's done okay in the Mexican League, but I don't think he's ready for this type of project yet. So, and Broly, I don't even want to get started. I know everybody says he's so organized and he's good with the young guys, but I don't think he's ready to take on this project as well. And to be honest with you, I think the only reason he won that U20 World Cup was because he was saved by players on that team who were fantastic. I don't believe that U20 World Cup team played any game great.
I agree.
They won because they had good players, but not because they were a great team.
No, but that's the thing, because the knockout stages, I think we kind of won 3 of the knockout games we won due to Anderson Duarte goal, like close games when Uruguay didn't. So no, I agree fully with that. I mean, and also, I mean, the track record of Broly. I mean, we could talk about Forlan and Abreu, but I don't think even it's worth our time, because I love them, but they should never be a candidate to lead Uruguay national team. That would be ridiculous. Almada's a good pick. I heard people talk about Diego Aguirre, and I understand completely why people. No, okay, no, I know you're national, so but but
regardless, I don't think he's a good coach. Yeah, he had a successful campaign at Peñarol the last time he was there. He's been okay this time. He hasn't had the players to do what he needs to do, but I just don't think he's a great coach.
But besides that, we can leave it. But I understand that he is obviously someone on top of the list when it comes to domestic managers, because Uruguayan managers. Almada, you had obviously Pesolano a few years ago. That was a name, not so much now anymore. But yeah, I mean Gallardo is obviously fair. It's quite different to Bielsa and the way he is as a manager, and also certainly when it comes to managing a group, it's quite different. So it's going to be interesting, and we have not, I think, heard anything of any substance or significance when it comes to this new manager. And like you said, that the elections of our president is going to be obviously huge. Probably have to wait for this, and would be better to have a coach in quickly, because I mean, besides the way we performed, Uruguay obviously are in a tough spot. They have got good players, but also deficiencies in key areas in that squad. And someone like Alvaro Rodriguez, who obviously now seems to be heading to Bournemouth, to the Premier League, that's things that when it comes to these days, I get a little bit excited again, because that's what you want to hear. That's what you want to see. So hopefully we can see players develop, get better over the coming years, and then we can be a true team again in the Copa and leading up to the World Cup in 2030, when obviously we are playing at the Centenario or opening game. This Uruguay team needs to stand up again and be a true team that Uruguay can be in World Cups, because to have 2 group stage exits in a row, it's I mean, come on, guys. I mean, yeah, it's maybe one more name to throw in. I saw this comment from Brian. Would you guys want someone like Ricardo Careca to come in for this cycle? I think it's an interesting name. I wouldn't really go for him, but obviously he's respectful. He's a name that's respected in South American football, and he's done good things. Brought Peru to the World Cup, obviously. But I saw you nodding at first of all. But how do you feel about this?
If you want to go older Argentinian guy, I'd prefer Julio Peckerman.
Jose or Julio. Yeah,
Jose Peckerman.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Is he even managing?
No, he's not. I don't think he's managing right now. But I would prefer. I mean, what he did with Colombia when he was the
Yeah,
coach of Colombia was fantastic.
was a
He
great
he
side there.
he plays a very attractive style, much better than what Gareca proposes. Yes, Gareca was fantastic with Peru, not so great with Chile. I think he's actually with Chile right now, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, nah, not a fan. I see that Leo Antonio asked about Julio Rivas, but that's another name. I don't know, man. I don't know. I know that he coached, if I'm
Gibraltar.
not mistaken, yeah, Gibraltar, right? He
Yeah.
coached Gibraltar. I don't know. He doesn't convince me. Again, he doesn't convince me.
It's an interesting name though, but yeah, when you look, yeah, but that's also maybe nice. It's kind of open right now, right? The Uruguay manager job. I mean, I think back in 2021, 2022, start of 2022, it's like really narrowed down to a few names. It was Almada, was Alonso, also I think was Gallardo even. Yeah, Gallardo was also an option back then when Tavares.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but now it's wide open. I mean, the thing with Almada, I think we would all love it, but he's just signed for Club America.
Yeah, but
He
if they're not going to pick a coach until next year, anything can happen.
That's true.
You know how it works in Mexico. If you don't win, they fire you. So anything can happen in the next 12 months. My two favorites, like I said, Almada, if you want the Uruguay coach, Gallardo, if you're okay with the Argentinian coach. The reason why I'm okay with Gallardo is because he played in Uruguay, he coached in Uruguay, he won a championship as a player and a coach while he was in Uruguay, and he understands the culture. He's lived there. So, that's why I see it a little bit different than if you were just to bring in like an Argentinian guy. But people need to get over it, man. Everybody in South America has an Argentinian coach. Except for Brazil and Bolivia. Everybody else has an Argentinian coach.
Oh no, I mean, and obviously Argentinian coaches, when it comes to South American managers, they are dominating the game, and they have dominated for quite a few years already. So yeah, I mean, the point you mentioned like maybe 50 minutes ago about the national teams, because Giordano, I think that's how I pronounce it, right? Jorge Giordano is obviously the director of the national teams, but that figurehead that really leads especially the youth teams and the way, I mean, the way this is developed and integrated into the senior national team, it's like all together. That's maybe a problem we can talk about later, but that's obviously not looking good at the moment, right? That's also a concern.
It's not. And a name that I would throw out for the young divisions is Fernando Curuchet. He's done a fantastic job when he was at Defensor. He did a great job when he was at Nacional. I believe he's also been at Peñarol at some point. Fernando Curuchet is a fantastic developer of young talents. That's somebody that I would love to help out in the young divisions for the national team. And I'll tell you this, my opinion on Giordano, absolutely disgrace.
Yeah,
He
okay.
was terrible when he was the the general manager of Nacional. He coached Nacional. He was absolutely terrible. The only reason that he got into that position that he's in today, and I know that Bielsa gave him all his flowers because he said that he was the best person he's ever worked with, and this
Tavares as well, right? Tavares as well.
He did. He threw Tavares his flowers, but Jorge Giordano is a disgrace. I mean, that guy should not be where he is. He's there because he must know somebody. He's friends with somebody. He has some pictures of somebody that he shouldn't have. I don't know what the reason that he's there is, but he should be as far away from the national team as possible.
But I'm pretty sure he's going to stay, though. I'm pretty sure he's going to stay on.
He's going to be the interim coach for the next 12 months.
Yeah, well, that will be something. Yeah. No, but okay, maybe moving on from that. I mean, yeah, it's going to be interesting. We just have to see how it all unfolds because we just don't know yet. But looking at this squad, 26 names that were called up to the World Cup for Uruguay. If we are talking about, I mean, when's the next international break going to be? September, I guess?
I don't know. I have to double check. Let's see.
No, but it's great. But anyway, whenever it is, out of this squad, who do you not want to see called up anymore? I mean, maybe not forever, but there are some players, I guess we all have them. You think, well, it's over for now. We want to see different names. You're not going to make the cut next time around.
Oh, I don't want to see Muslera. I don't want to see Mele. I don't want to see Matias Viñas. I don't want to see Joaquin Piqueres. I don't want to see Ronald Araujo, at least until he can show me that he's been healthy and playing fantastic for
Yeah.
Barcelona for at least 6 months. I don't want to see Guillermo Almada anymore. I don't want to see Facundo Pelistri. I really don't want to see Federico Viñas. I mean, I can continue going. I think of the 26 names that were on that roster, it's easier for me to list the 4 or 5 names that I want to continue seeing. Maybe I definitely want to see Bentancur. I thought he was fantastic. I definitely want to continue to see Araujo, the winger, not the defender. Those types of players I want to continue to see. Maybe I would give Agustin Canovio an extra chance just because of the garra that he showed that last game. It showed me that he wanted to be there. But man, even Valverde, I would leave him off the squad for the next 2 or 3 selections. I would tell him, hey, you want to come back? Show me something. Because like somebody said earlier in the chat, he's the captain. Where is he? He hasn't shown his face yet. He hasn't shown his face yet. If you're the captain, you are responsible. I'm sorry, but Valverde is not a captain. He should not be wearing the captain's band.
No. And I mean, he's obviously going to be called up. That's the thing. But I agree fully with what you're saying, the things you're saying. And Sebastian said this earlier. But guys, where are the captains? Only Bielsa spoke. The captains have all gone mute now. None of them stepped up to speak or say anything. That's the problem. Yeah, we all agree with that, I guess, because it's kind of, this is also, I guess, part of, and you know better than me, part of Uruguayan football and culture is that the players are quite communicative with the press. I don't see a lot of footballing countries where players, even Suarez during his prime, call up into a Uruguayan news radio show just to talk, just to do that. And he doesn't have any obligations to do that, right? He does that because it's kind of part of the culture of Uruguayan football. And to have Valverde, Josema even, because Josema, okay, he didn't play, but still, I think Josema, I want to hear from him, have an interview, appear on a radio station, whatever, I don't care. But nothing has been said. Nothing has been said besides the few words that were said in the mixed zone afterwards. But Valverde especially, I mean, you have to speak because you didn't perform anywhere in the level we need you at. And you're the captain of Uruguay, you're the Real Madrid player. And if we don't hear from him soon, and if we are going into the new season and the way we hear from him about this World Cup is in some way an interview with Marca, for example, previewing the next season and then talking a little bit, a few questions, that's going to be not good enough for me. Like, that would be disgraceful, actually, because it's not about we don't need to see him speak because he has to be blamed or has to be held he has to be shamed, whatever. We need to just hear from him because there's probably things he also wants to say about how he doesn't feel right about what happened, maybe with Bielsa, maybe with the press, whatever. Do it, speak it, and we don't have to agree, but we have to hear from you because now it's kind of, what are you doing, man? You have a World Cup like this and you don't say anything, then you also throw double disrespect to us, in my opinion.
I agree, man. I mean, and that's what, and we can talk about this, for another hour as well. But when you start looking at the captains that Uruguay has had over the last few cycles, you go from Paolo Montero in the 90s to, the early 2000s. You had Lugano, you had Diego Godin, then you had Josema Jimenez. I mean, those are real captains. Those are flag bearers, guys who will go out and show their face. But I mean, Valverde is just a coward. He's just an absolute coward. He didn't show his face. He didn't play well. And until he comes out and speaks, I mean, that's how I'm gonna feel about him. I'm just gonna feel like he's a coward and he's taking the easy way out. And maybe Tchouaméni should hit him a few more times. Maybe he got knocked in the head once, and he needs to get knocked in the head a couple more times.
Yeah. No. Yeah. No, but it's a shame, right? Because I mean, we all love Fede. I mean, we're talking about, man, I understand your comments a bit tongue-in-cheek, but we all love him. We all want him to do well. That's all we want, We don't like to see him where he is right now. Because at the moment, I think he's 27 now. I'm pretty sure he's 27, maybe 26.
He still has another cycle.
No, it's true, but it's his second World Cup, with Uruguay. I think it's his second Copa America. He had played 2 Copa Americas, pretty sure, with Uruguay. And we cannot think of a single memorable moment that he had.
I can only think of one. It was in the prior World Cup qualifiers. We were playing against Paraguay, I believe, in Paraguay.
No, wait, I mean in the tournaments, right? At the tournaments. Yeah.
Oh, in tournaments, no. But
No,
in
no, I get
qualifiers,
the
that's his only moment ever.
yeah.
And I remember from Uruguay, he scored that out of the box goal against Paraguay.
On his debut, right?
Correct.
2017, I guess it was. No, no, and I mean, don't get me wrong, he has had good games, you know. And Leo corrects me, it's 3 Copa Americas. Yeah, yeah, true. Because he obviously missed the World Cup. Tavares didn't call him up, and then 2019 he was part of the squad. Um, but that's the thing with Valverde, right? I mean, at the moment, and this is not being nasty, but Aravalo Rios got a bigger legacy in the Uruguay shirt than Fede Valverde. That's in how I feel it anyway. You know, obviously,
It's
not
funny that
even
you bring up his name. It's
not
funny
even
that of all the names that you bring up Gacha, because I had a buddy who went to the game in Guadalajara against Spain. And on his flight back to the States, he sat next to Cacha de Rios. And he
that's
was
cool.
texting me and telling me, he's like, man, I had some great conversations. And he was telling me how, the association charged them $2,500 per ticket to sit behind the goal. They were charging ex players, and that's crazy because you see Forlan, you see Lugano, you see Godin, you even saw Chori Castro in the stands with these guys and with the FIFA guys. And there's a guy like Arevalo Rios who gave everything he had for Uruguay year after year after year, and they're making him pay the money. Apparently, the AUF doesn't do a good job of keeping their older players in the bubble, and they only keep the ones that they want in the bubble, like a Forlan, like a Loco Abreu, just the ones that give them good publicity. They seem to keep them in the bubble, and it's a shame because, again, it all starts at the top. And if you can't continue to take care of the legends, of the players who have represented you so great in the past, then what the hell are you doing, right? I mean, so sorry to take you off topic, but
no.
again, I thought it was funny. You mentioned of all the names, you mentioned Cacha, and I had that story so I had to mention about it.
Oh, but that's a bad look on AOF, and there are many things which the Uruguayan Football Association have been terrible at for the last few years, you know. And I think because Palito Pereira, I'm pretty sure he would probably get the same treatment because he's someone who's in the media right now, voicing his opinion, and obviously we all love him. We all love Arevalo Rios. We all love Tata Gonzalez. But these guys, I'm pretty sure, like you said, I'm sure this is happening, and this is not it's not great. And because I mean, Chori Castro, I'm great for him, right? But he obviously he wasn't a prominent player for Uruguay, never was, right? So yeah, that's really bad. Maybe moving on before we stop, we'll go on, I guess, maybe 10-15 more minutes if that's okay. Danielle, please let me know. But yeah, the Bielsa presser, maybe get back to it. We talked about the 10-minute talk, all this stuff. Is there another thing that you saw in this press conference that you want to highlight, you want to talk about?
No, I think we pretty much covered the big points.
Yeah.
I thought he was good in his press conference. It lasted about 90 minutes. He took every question. He answered every question. He didn't shy away from anything. And I think that's what you have to do, as a coach, as a leader of a team, when you do so poorly at the biggest tournament, every 4 years. And he came out and gave face and he explained at least his side. And now as fans, as folks who cover the team, as people who want to see Uruguay do well, we're waiting for the other half of the folks that are responsible to come and show their face. So I think that's really what we're waiting for. And again, I think overall the press conference was fantastic. I thought it was great that he answered everything, and he didn't shy away from anything, which is probably what a lot of people expected, that he was going to try to come up with some sort of excuses or anything. But again, he gave good data points. He gave excellent backup to what he was saying. And again, we can't come out and argue with anything because we don't know the other side.
No, that's a good point. And I guess we have to commend him on that because obviously I've been really a bit harsh on Bielsa, obviously for right reasons lately. But I made the comparison with Diego Alonso and how they both have been treated. And Alonso basically persona non grata after the knockout, after the group stage exit. And now Alonso or Bielsa, by some or quite sizable portions of Uruguayan football fans being kind of elevated into someone who did a great thing, even though we were knocked out of the group stage. But I guess Bielsa did show up, did give his side of the story, and we maybe not agree sometimes with things. Maybe you want to, like you said, hear the other side of it, hear the players. He still did it, Alonso, we never heard anything from him about the World Cup after that World Cup. So this is obviously a way better ending, even though the ending is terrible, because we actually heard him talk. And like you said, sometimes he can be obfuscating a lot of things and talking in long sentences and trying to, I think, really obfuscate, because some people really think he's kind of a philosopher, but sometimes I'm hearing him talk about things I'm thinking, what are you saying? But that was not really like it this time, different anyway. He still obviously has his way with words, but he was obviously also quite concise, quite not concise, I guess, but quite clear in what he wanted to convey, and well, he directly answered questions in I guess a satisfactory way, even though we still don't have the full picture, which is kind of frustrating.
Yeah.
But okay, yeah, I guess that's.
Let me ask you something. Did you watch the Spain-Austria game today?
No, I didn't. No, I wasn't able to.
So I wanted to ask now, and it's not going to make sense what I'm going to ask you, but I wanted to ask you if you had watched it, if Uruguay would have beat Spain in that game on last Friday, I would have loved to know your opinion if you thought they would have beat or stand a chance against Austria, because Spain beat them 3-0, and Spain wasn't, this huge wow again today. Yes, they played better than what they did against Uruguay, but overall, I haven't seen them. They're not really surprising me in this tournament. They're not, the wow team like France has been, like Argentina has been. So I would have been curious. And again, I don't know if Uruguay would have beat Argentina. I would have preferred to face Argentina over Austria, because I think the playing styles suit us better, and we would have made a good game out of it. But yeah, since you didn't watch it, I guess it doesn't make any sense.
No, but I watched Austria though in this tournament. So, but the thing is with Austria, that's the game, because obviously with Ranjik in charge, really high energy, really, I guess devoted and actually organized, or at least they should be. I'm not sure if they were that today, but that would be a really interesting game, Uruguay Austria. But also a quite close game, I think, because Uruguay, the way they are right now, we can remember the Algeria game in Turin. I think it's not the same game, but similar in terms of the level of the opponent and Uruguay coming up against them. So that will be a really interesting game. I'm not sure if Uruguay were able to beat them. But about Spain, I guess Spain is not going to win the World Cup. That's what I kind of conclude out of these first few games.
I don't know, man. Spain is that team where
it can happen. They have quality, of course, yeah.
But they're a team that, unfortunately, they don't have to make a lot of noise. They can just do it quietly and scoot by the different stages. I don't know if you know this, but I believe I think they're the only team
not concede, right?
Who hasn't conceded a goal.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing though, because Uruguay, it's not like they were like that we were bombarding them, that we were creating a lot, but we had the moments. But that is always going to happen against Spain because of the way they are playing, the way they take risk in possession, the way they have like 40, 50 yards behind their defense. So that's always going to happen. But no, we also didn't create a clear-cut 1v1 moment. Like we had moments when Darwin came into play, but was never like we had to score, was a sit or whatever. So in that way, defensively, they're strong, they're solid. Their midfield is not as good as it was, I think, in the Euros. At that moment I think it was Fabian, Pedri, and Rodri, and they are still the same names, but it doesn't seem to click in the same way. I guess they missed someone like Fermin Lopez as well. That would have been great for them to arrive in the box. Lamine is not in full flow yet, I guess. But when Lamine does get in full flow, there's going to be a problem. And then the Nico Williams problem is a bigger one, right? Because did he even play today, or is he even fully fit? I'm not sure.
No, I don't think he played today. But shout out to
Nico de la Cruz. No, that's not nice. No, that's not nice. No,
he didn't do it on purpose. Even though
he did it on purpose. He did it on purpose.
You think he did it on purpose?
Oh, the challenge, obviously injuring him, obviously not, but the challenge obviously was on purpose.
Oh yeah. He was just trying to stop the play. It's a normal soccer play. You get away from me, there's nobody behind me, I'm going to take you down. But I don't think he meant to hurt him. But Nico Williams came out to say, "Oh, what he did was unprofessional," and part of the game, man. Just
No, that's I didn't that statement also I was thinking, but because that's the thing, by the way, youth were talking about it in the stream before the game. We haven't seen a moment where when Uruguayan actually kicked the shit out of someone.
yeah.
And I wouldn't say the De La Cruz challenge was similar to the Maxi Pereira one against Costa Rica. It's not similar. There's parallels, but not in the same way. But yeah, I guess we saw that Uruguay, and we don't want to see it, right? But for me personally, when Uruguay are doing really bad at the World Cup and we are being knocked out, there's some part of me that really enjoys that. It's really bad, I guess, but
Well, I really enjoyed what Canovio was doing, right? When he put Cucurella on the floor, I think that was a strong challenge. And that's the type of
yeah,
garra, right? That's the type of attitude that we want to see of the Uruguayan players when they're on the field. We want to see all of them do that. Now, I'm not telling you to be dirty,
of course
but
not. No.
we're just telling you to play tough, to play hard.
But
And we didn't see that most of the tournament until that last game. Had they played that way the first two games, I think the story would have been different.
Yeah, and that's another thing about Darwin, though, right? Because Darwin, yeah, he made some runs, he got into chances, but he wasn't he wasn't on warpath basically in attack. He wasn't trying to bust into people to really make like Anobio did, for example, with Kukureya, make it a fight, make it so hard for these defenders. He didn't do that, and that was also another thing why he disappointed me because that is what we need that from you, especially in that second half when things weren't going well. He needs to make it so difficult for these defenders to create moments. And that's also why I don't like when people say, well, what was created for Darwin this World Cup? Did he have many 1v1 opportunities? It's also part of your job as a striker when your team is not playing that well to create these opportunities, to make something happen. And he has not done any of that at this World Cup. I remember one moment, I think it was against Cape Verde when he came on late in the game and he kind of passed an opponent. And there was a moment in the box against Cape Verde where, yeah, he created something. He obviously didn't really finish it off well. He didn't find his teammate or a good pass. But that's one moment, and he played, I think, in total he played 180 minutes in the World Cup. It's not like he played little. It's not like he had cameo appearances. So
two games, basically 180 minutes is
yeah,
but he's not that type of player, right? He's not that type of player.
but he can be that. He can be that though.
He can, but he prefers to go to the salon and get his hair braided and get his
Yeah.
nails done and do those things. At least that's the type of things that we saw during the tournament. He kept putting out these videos about him doing his hair. And if you wanted that type of player, maybe you should have started Rodrigo Aguirre, who's not as good with the ball tactically, but he's that type of player who's going to, back into the defender, push a little bit, show you a little bit of more hunger. So, we can continue to kind of do the what ifs and that, but it's not going to fix our our tournament, and it's not going to fix our mood, unfortunately.
No, I agree. Yeah. No, so yeah, we have to find out, I guess, how Darwin is obviously going to recover from this. Who's going to be our attacking options come next September? I'm pretty sure. If Alvaro is getting a shout when he's at Bournemouth, which most probably is going to happen, if Satriano is going to get a chance, even if we're going to see people like Luciano Rodriguez, who I actually don't believe should get an opportunity right now, gets back in. Hopefully, we actually see some shifts, some changes, a different path, and a manager coming in who can connect with this group of players. And obviously, the players have to make that happen as well. Because even if the things are true when it comes to Bielsa, that he didn't captivate them, that he wasn't able to kind of fix the inner dynamics of that group, that is also down to the players. That's so, yeah.
Yeah, I agree, man. We definitely need to bring somebody in who's going to recuperate some of those young talents that we had on the U20 team, like a Mauro Boselli, like an Alan Maturro, like an Andres Ferrari, like an Anderson Duarte, and stuff like that. Because you don't win a U20 World Cup without having some talent, and the fact that talent in the last couple of years has just dissipated, and none of those players made it onto the national team to compete at this World Cup is very disheartening. And I think that's one of the things that whoever the next coach is, even if it's Giordano for this interim period, if for the next list in September, October, when it's time to play those friendlies, you need to call some of these other players up. I'm tired of seeing the same guys over and over. We need to see some new faces. Maybe call Facundo Bernal, who's going to sign for
Yeah,
Getafe. You
great
know,
point.
maybe try to bring some of the players who are not playing in the top leagues but are still playing in Europe. Maybe bring back a Torreira, somebody who can, who's been there with the Suarez's, with the Forlans, with the Cavani's, who can command the locker room. That's what we need. Some new faces, some old faces, and hopefully we can, start in a positive direction in September, because the next few months, man, it's gonna be miserable for Uruguay. It's gonna be miserable.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, let's hope it happens. Let's hope we see a turnaround coming into 2027, 2028, the Copa, and then obviously the World Cup later. This is far away, The World Cup still is to finish right now, but yeah, let's hope so. Anyway, thanks guys for joining us. Hopefully you can enjoy the rest of the World Cup, watching, football in general. I guess that's what we're gonna do as well. Obviously, in your country, in the US at the moment. So it's, I guess it's still a great atmosphere where you live. Yeah, so that's great.
I have Argentina playing here on Friday.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be. You're gonna stay at home, right, or no?
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I'm not. Actually, I'm going to my brother-in-law's house. We're gonna do an asado, and I don't wear other teams' jerseys, but I'll definitely be doing the Cabo Verde chant during the entire game.
Yeah, no, it's gonna. Yeah, but they're probably gonna smash them like 3-4-0. But yeah, anyway, we can hope. We can hope.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Okay, all good. We will see. And yeah, so thanks guys for joining us for following the World Cup coverage on here on X. So, you can obviously follow Danny, DCL Danny on X as well. Probably gonna show, I guess, maybe on Twitter. Maybe you're gonna do some stuff during the World Cup still, or no?
Yeah. I have. I post every day on Twitter. I'm doing a lot of stuff on Instagram right now, throwing out reels and on my stories, kind of summarizing the prior day's matches and stuff like that. So if you want to follow me on X or Instagram, definitely check me out at DCL.
Oh, good. So you can do that. You can follow me on Uruguayan Heroes. Yeah, for updates and whatever. Hopefully some good stuff, good news. Anyway, thanks guys for joining, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.
Uruguay nomás.